Good evening and welcome to ParaMindful, episode 2 of ParaMindful, a bi-weekly show where we talk about all things spooky-ooky-ish. I'm your Melball. Over there is Alex and down there is Karl. Alex, how are we doing today?
Living the dream.
When you say living the dream, all I see is Freddy Krueger, man.
I mean, that's somebody's dream.
Karl, how are you doing today?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. I do have to start off by saying so happy and thankful with the reception that we got for the very first episode of ParaMindful. It has been amazing, and you guys are definitely in for a treat today.
We are. We're kind of flying from the seat of our pants here, but we've got a fun episode lined up for you. We're going to be talking about the origins of Halloween. This episode is going to be coming out, in the first week of November, but that doesn't mean that spooky season is over. It certainly isn't over for this girl. It's not over for these guys. So that being said, let's get into it. The origins of Halloween, from best we can find on Los Internares. It did kind of originate in what we're agreeing is the Celtic Gaelic kind of time period. I feel like Alex has a little bit more information on this guy than I did. Alex, do you want to take over here, telling us a little bit about the Celtic
I mean,
aspect of this guy?
say that again. Sorry.
Do you want to take over, kind of talking about the Celtic aspect of the holiday here?
Yeah, I mean, all I got was Sam Hain, which is a celebration festival type deal,
Mm-hmm.
which is to honor the dead people that have passed, which makes sense. I mean, um, there wasn't religion as we know it now, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes any sense. So, I mean, like, there was, yeah, get in the whole Crusades thing, but we don't need to do that. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and it's interesting because normally when people, well, this sounds weird. Normally when people die, it's like they celebrate near that time, like they have the wake and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought it was kind of interesting how they would wait, whatever, say potentially a year to be able to celebrate that person. It's like a very specific day, and yeah,
And I believe there was also offerings made in that time. From what I'm seeing here, it says that there was a lot of bonfires that would
yeah.
be had around that time period to kind of almost light the way for those spirits. Just looking at the pronunciation, I didn't realize this because, like, English, we're terrible language, right? The pronunciation of it is actually Soen. It's
I'm
very
not. I'm not
interesting.
surprised. I'm not surprised, but
Yeah, I mean,
that
look
would
where
be
the
Gaelic,
actual
right?
word came from,
Yep.
right?
So, like, I had a buddy when I grew up. His name was Seamus, and you would look at his name and you'd be like, yeah, no, that's not Seamus.
Does not phonetically sound.
And then there was another one name. Her name was Miev, which is Gaelic, but it was spelt it was like Mai. So in theory, it would be Maeve, but no, it
Mhm.
was Miev. Interesting
Again, this,
tidbits.
hmm and the obviously the this kind of holiday did happen around this kind of time, the end of harvest, if you will, the beginning of winter, and they did typically think of this time period when the veil was very thin. So going back to what Alex said, this was a specific time that they chose to honor their ancestors or make offerings to them or the spirits or whatever. And as we were talking about before, they would actually leave places at the table for past family members. And I believe, Karl, was it you who mentioned that something like that happens usually at modern day, weddings or celebrations where family are no longer present to celebrate. It was almost
Yes.
like, from what we saw from the readings, it was like the spirits in that time period, not so much now where we're terrified of spirits, but back then it was almost like they were almost waiting to celebrate with their deceased ancestors, and the spirits were actually almost welcomed with hospitality and expected it when they did come to, I guess, our plain when that veil does get thin. Um, Something that we also had noticed through our research was the Celtics did kind of almost take in like that Roman kind of fortune telling, was it? Like almost like a
Yeah.
scrying, or the lead or the egg in the water. This actually did start coming into the Celtic beliefs around that time also. Was it Karl or Alex? One of you guys said it was about the time that the Romans were conquering the Celtics?
Yeah, so obviously the Romans were a powerhouse and they were taking
Mhm.
everything over. So when they took over the lands that the Celts were occupying, I guess I won't say owned, that's ridiculous, but when they were occupying,
Mm,
um, they had two specific days, the Romans did, and
mhm,
one was kind of like a commemoration of the dead one, and then the other one was like a harvest kind of deal. But when they rolled through and took over the Celtic lands and stuff, um, for whatever reason, they decided to combine them all together and then go
mm.
with the Celtic tradition. I mean, it obviously didn't happen in like 6 days, but event- eventually it folded over, and then they went with the Celtic stuff. But um, yeah, I don't know. I find it very interesting how um, like spirits. You were just mentioning it. Spirits back in the day were like revered. You know what I mean?
Mm,
They were super super special.
mm,
I mean, obviously there were still evil ones. But and nowadays
mm.
is like I don't know. You hear a bump in your attic and you run out of your house and you never go back, kind of thing. You know, it's just like it's. I
Kill it
don't.
with fire, throw the match
Yeah,
behind you on your way out.
I'd be curious to know when that shift happened. Anyway, sorry,
Yeah. No,
Mr.
it is
Tangent.
a very interesting thing to bring up because like that wasn't something that I specifically saw kind of
No,
come up in my research.
I
What about
just thought
yourself,
of it. So
Carl?
No, it definitely is very interesting. And I mean, for us in modern day age, the only thing that I can maybe really equate it to is possibly like media. I
I
maybe,
guess
was
we
yeah,
could
gonna say
say
pop
is
yeah,
that
culture. Yeah.
like when like film, television, stuff like that really started happening, or even before that. I mean, I guess we could maybe even go back as far as just like radio
yeah,
broadcasts and programs. Maybe was around the time where kind of a little bit of a fear was put into the people around like this holiday and around maybe even spirits themselves being something seen
right,
as bad, I guess. I don't want to use the
yeah,
word the D word
yeah,
right now, but yeah,
Mhm.
like just as something bad.
and it. I don't know. My immediate thought in my brain, and this is kind of another tangent, is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she wrote that book with Bram Stoker. They were all at a lodge, I guess, a hunting lodge, whatever it would be.
False. You're an idiot. A stupid, idiotic, numbskull.
And they challenged themselves to write stories, and that's how that came about. But it had to stem from something, you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
something not good would have
Yeah.
been, you know what I mean? Like it's something on the mind, anyways. So sorry.
Absolutely. I mean, you got to think of
No,
every story that, or anything that has kind of been created in any kind of storyline. There has to be some kernel of truth to trigger that creativity to go down that rabbit hole. You know, you
right.
brought up Bram Stoker. I mean, Dracula. Where did he come up with that? Well, vampires have been rumored to
Yeah.
be in Europe for years and
Yeah.
years. And we'll discuss that in a later
That's an
show before
interesting
we
one.
get
Yeah.
stuck into
Yeah.
that, sucked into that rabbit hole.
We're changing the topic.
Kind of. I mean, it all still kind of comes back to and equates to Halloween,
It's
considering that we still
yeah.
have people that dress as
You're
Frankenstein
very
or
very factual on that
Dracula.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That being said, though, like I think there might be some truth to the idea, Carl, that pop culture and media is kind of what sensationalized almost the evilness of spirits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because, like for myself, I never really thought anything like that was bad until I started hearing about stuff like Amityville Horror, you know? And now it's like knowing that not only is that place real, but I've driven by it is kind of terrifying to know about. But like, speaking of which, I'm pretty sure that Conjuring house is still on the market.
Dibs out.
I'm just saying, I don't want to live in the thing because I don't need that bad mojo, but that would be some pretty good coin to make if you can just rent it out to people trying to investigate the paranormal activity happening there. Just throw that out
That's a
there.
million dollar idea. I'm gonna write that down right now.
You can appease all those spirits all you want. It's not gonna freaking matter at this point.
Make it a nice bed and breakfast.
Hey, there you go.
Nice, quote unquote.
You can put a couple beds out in the lawn when people don't actually
Right?
make it through the night.
Get those shower mats that when you step on it, it looks like
They
bloody
turn into
footprints.
blood. Oh man.
But I do think that you're right, Mel. I mean, pop culture really did. For myself, it was actually Lou Chaney with Phantom of the Opera. Like I was always a Phantom of the Opera fan. I had read the book several times, and then I learned about the different movie adaptations that came from it. I had my own preconceived notions of what Phantom of the Opera. In fact, I mean, I have a Phantom of the Opera tattoo on me because
yeah.
I just love Phantom of the Opera, right? But it wasn't until I actually saw the movies that I was like, ooh, this is actually kind of scary.
Right.
Because reading the book, you really see it as more of, it was more of like a love story, I guess you could say. But then I was scared for the first little bit when actually seeing it through someone else's adaptation. So
I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't know it was a book.
oh yes,
The more
I
you
have
know, 'cause
several
knowledge is
copies of
power.
it.
Knowledge is power, right?
I've seen that stage performance 4 different times at the Pantages Theatre in Toronto. And I had the privilege of seeing, I always forget his name, the lead singer of Kiss, Paul
Johnny
Stanley.
Osmond. No, I'm just kidding. Paul Stanley.
I got to see him as the Phantom.
That's
So
cool.
that
Oh,
was
nice.
Yeah.
fun little timbit from me.
I really enjoy that when they put in like just that one dude who can really belt away. This is
Oh yeah.
off topic again, but Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat. Oh, with Donny
That's a good one,
Osmond.
yeah.
Right.
I'm not a Donnie and Marie fan by any means, but that dude can sing. Holy smokes! Sorry,
Oh yes, he can.
continue.
Yeah. So moving on from our origins here, it looks from what I could find, the dressing up for Halloween did kind of start in the late 1500s. Though there were rumors of the Celts kind of doing it a little bit beforehand. It became very, very popular in the 1500s. Guys, did you have anything else about like the masks or the pumpkins or the generally creepy stuff that comes out during Halloween?
I just thought of something actually, and it was just recently, and it goes back to your Amityville horror there. The house is on the market right now. It just got put up like I don't know 4 days ago, something like that. I just remembered. I read that and I was like, no thanks, man.
Again, though, like
No.
part of me goes, yeah, no, I want nothing to do with that. But you know how many psychopathic, paranormal, investigative, crazy people are like, heck yeah,
See,
I will pay whatever money you want to go in there.
and for me, it's not even the fact
Give
that
me
it
your
might be
money.
haunted. It's the fact that a whole family was killed
Yeah,
there. You know what I mean?
that
That's the part.
axed in there, yeah.
Like the evil spirits. I mean, sure, that's one thing, but it's just the fact that people have died in that house, and that just makes me feel uneasy. So that's why I wouldn't buy it. It would have nothing to do with the spirits. I'd buy it because of the spirits if I could. But anyways, I'm sorry.
I mean, part of me would hope that Ryan Reynolds would still come around. That's
Well,
what I'm
you're
with.
better. You got better luck if you're in Hollywood or Vancouver.
I'm just gonna say that I would definitely buy the house to live in it.
Yeah, there you go.
Really?
I
I
forgot
would.
that Ryan Reynolds was in the remake altogether. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that was that's I think Conjuring is something like that whole series, and Lorraine is just something that I think we would have to do a
that's
whole separate
they're
video
interesting
Yes.
people. Yeah. That
hmm
whole
to go through their museum of what is in their home. That would be a very interesting.
That just
Yeah.
reminds me.
Do not send Alex off on a tangent.
No. You were talking about Ed and Lorraine and their museum. I just read yesterday that there's a guy who was it rum? No, there was a type of booze, and he barreled it in the room with Annabelle, and there's only a very specific amount of bottles, and so somebody's going to get the bottle 666 that was in the room with Annabelle that was aged in barrels.
I can tell you
I was going to bring that up.
It's not going to be me.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up earlier, and I totally forgot about it until you said that. So the museum.
You know, Annabelle. Carl's just like, I need it.
Whoever gets it, all I want is a shot. Just give me a shot.
Of any of them, or
Whoever
666 in
gets it.
particular?
666 in particular.
Let me Google.
I
I'm going to see if it's available.
Video of every time they take a drink from that thing, because Lord knows that every time that he ingests that or she ingests that or whatever, some wacky ish is going to happen, and you don't want to be around when it happens. I mean, for anyone who watches Ghost Adventures, we saw what happened when Zach Bagans just touched Annabelle's foot. The guy's car got struck by lightning 3 days later. And that's not, that seems a little coincidental. 3 days later, we all know, if anyone who's into the paranormal stuff, the number 3, the number 6, the number 9, you want nothing to do with.
I have the article here. It's a company called Harridan Vodka, and they have a quote unquote paranormal reserve is what. And this year, they decided to age it in haunted. Oh, they aged them all in haunted locations. This year was inside a room with Annabelle the doll, which is terrible. I don't know how long you would age it for, but 15 seconds max.
I mean, whatever is residing in that doll is probably thousands of years old. So,
well, yeah, I mean, Raggedy Ann herself was a creepy looking doll, but then when you put all that other stuff in there,
I would absolutely love it, and I'm a vodka drinker, so please, if I could even be in the same room with Annabelle while I'm taking that shot, yes, please. For me, yes, please.
Sit in the room with the doll that they used in the movies, which, in my personal opinion, they made look 10 times creepier than any doll in the history of existence. I would rather chill with that doll than even look upon Annabelle in real life. That thing scares me.
I realize we're not talking about the original topic, but I need to clarify. There are only 666 bottles. They are 750 mil, 44%, and the suggested retail price is $199 American. They were aged with her for 30 days in the Occult Museum in Monroe, Connecticut.
You guys
which means that there's the other stuff there too. It's not just Annabelle.
It's not just Annabelle that's in that room. What about the haunted samurai armor? What about the haunted stick your hand in the thing and guess what is in the hidey hole game? You know, that's gonna be the nun. That's a hard pass. I worked hard to get rid of the bad mojo in my house. I'm not bringing that back here.
It's just so creepy. Like, they have a picture of the bottles all sitting in front of her. I'm like, no, thanks.
Yikes. That's a hard pass.
And if you guys are not aware of the bad mojo that Mel had in her home, go back and listen to our first episode where we actually, all three of us, take a deep dive into kind of our experiences and what got us into this world of the paranormal.
The spooky ooky-ish.
Right.
I'm sorry, I derailed this train real quick.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Annabelle is still spooky. She's still, we'll consider her Halloween.
Yeah, that's Halloween.
I'm pretty sure actually, didn't one of the Annabelles come out around Halloween anyway? It would make sense.
I feel like they all do. Like, they just kind of like put them out because it's creepy things and Halloween. It just kind of goes together, even though it could be like a creepy Christmas horror movie, and it would never come out at Christmas. It would always come out at Halloween. You know,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very true.
it's a time that we're allowed to be dark and creepy and like zombies in our front lawns and like dudes hanging from. I should clarify, not real dudes, but dudes hanging from trees like mannequins and stuff. And
Yeah.
Right.
let's clarify this here. Yeah.
It's the dark before the light, though, right? It's the evil that comes before the light of Christmas and the light of Thanksgiving and Remembrance Day for the Americans. We've already had our Thanksgiving Day, so. But yeah, another fun thing that if anybody didn't know that Halloween kind of got in the Gaelic Celtic thing was the jack-o'-lanterns. However, they didn't use pumpkins, as I don't think pumpkins are as readily available in Ireland. Um, though mercifully, they didn't do potatoes. Could you imagine seeing like a dozen little creepy hollowed out potatoes sitting on somebody's front step? I don't care if it's for a holiday. I would not approach. That is going to be a solid pass,
How long does a candle that small light? You know what I mean?
right?
Right.
Like 15-minute candle inside a potato.
But for the longest time, there was a potato famine, though.
That's
There
true.
was, yes.
That's true.
So the potato wasn't readily available for them to use. Instead, Mel, what did they use?
They use the turnips or rutabaga, as we like to call them here. And I gotta say, it is the creepiest stuff I have like ever seen. Any picture that I've seen of them, it looks like a shrunken head. It
It really does.
doesn't look
Yeah.
pleasant. It like the jack-lanterns, like you can at least like we do fun things here, like carve Jack Skellington into it, or Carl probably carves in the Dr. Pepper logo into his,
Attaboy.
I have done Oogie Boogie,
Yeah, see?
right?
Like it's super easy with the moon too, right? Like awesome.
Um,
You have these really cool things. These creepy people back in the day giving their turnips freaking teeth and freaking their nose and
yeah. I got
looking like you
two
disheveled or decapitated your neighbor a few weeks ago.
I got two things out of that. The first one
Eat
is
turnip, don't display it.
what's that? Sorry.
Eat turnip, don't display it.
Three things then. No, pumpkins from my chefing days. They're actually from Mexico. So I wonder if they have anything to do with like Aztec Mayan, that kind of thing. Like what their I'm curious about that. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Mexico does have that Day of the Dead that does happen around this similar time, which does do, pretty much the same thing that the former Celts used to do, honoring
Right,
their
but
dead.
I wonder if pumpkins are a part of that. Like I
Yeah.
admittedly don't know
Not
much
that I've
about Dias de los
seen.
Muertos, but
No, it's
yeah.
always flowers.
Yeah,
Lots
lots of flowers and like
flowers.
face paint and stuff and
Face paint,
Yeah,
masks.
show
Yeah.
goes. Yeah, singing, dancing, festivals, candles. But I don't recall seeing pumpkins in any kind of pictures like that. So
in
that
our
is a
next
very interesting
in our
question.
next episode I will have an answer and I'll go off on a little baby tangent, be like, hey, this is what I found out. Unless I didn't find anything out, then I won't even talk about it. And you will have forgotten about it.
Alex's
Right.
pumpkin patch. That's what we're
The other thing was we had mentioned the potato famine,
Yes.
which led a lot of Irish immigrants to come here being North America, and they would have
Bringing
brought
their
that
customs.
same kind of those same traditions, those same beliefs, I guess, here. Yeah, so I thought that was kind of cool, but it makes sense as to like. I was going to use like a virus. That's not what I mean, but like how it starts one place and then it just kind of like migrates to another
grows.
place, and then
It influences its around those
right.
around
But
it.
then when you get to that new place, it changes, right? Like it's. I think that's very,
It
very
changes
interesting. So
almost to like adapt to its surroundings.
yeah, like the only thing I can think of off the top of my head is a virus, and I know that's not cool, but I have Celtic background and so.
So, Alex,
Yeah.
so now when it did make its way over to North America,
Yep.
was it immediately all over North America, or was there
Negative.
like okay.
So new colonies. Now I'm drawing a blank. Either way, there was
Like the Puritans.
Right. You had the Puritans who were like, no, we don't want this because religion.
Mhm.
And then it was, where was it? Was it Massachusetts? I don't remember. Anyways, there was another colony, and they were far more into it because it was more of a celebration of, for lack of a better word, Thanksgiving for like crops and such, right? So
Yes.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
that
think it's
would
very interesting to know that I mean, what we know of it today really started not even here. It
yeah,
started in essentially a number of different places is kind of
yeah.
where it started, and then was brought over to us here in North America, as opposed to we're all Canadian, but I'm gonna say it: the Americans that like to believe that they created everything, and
I
there
didn't
are
say it.
Americans out there like
Carl
that.
said it.
There are some Americans that are out there like that, and I know
Yep,
them
for sure.
personally, and I love them to death.
I
I
may or may
do,
not have family who does the exact same thing.
right? But I love that it's something that we have kind of adapted into our living and our culture as
Yeah,
well.
I think it would be kind of cool to find out, like, because you had the 13 colonies, which was all over, right? So North America wasn't North America, et cetera, et cetera. But I'd be curious as to what the French colonies did, because the Celts were also in northern France.
Mhm.
So I'd be curious if they brought over the same beliefs, or if it was different, or if it somehow was different in the French colonies as it was in the English colonies.
Were the
So
French colonies Catholic at that time, though?
I
sure,
believe the majority of them were.
I don't know. I have no idea.
I just know that there's a lot of churches for sale now in France, as was part of my research, and that have been actually flipped and renovated into
Yeah.
houses.
Oddly enough,
Whereas,
I I have a buddy who lives in one in just outside of Manitoba. He bought in an old church, or not
um,
a Winnipeg, I should say, not outside of Manitoba. Now I sound like a real bum. No, outside of Winnipeg, north of Winnipeg, I should say. So yeah,
how odd would that be, too? Trying to do your everyday things, feeling like you're being judged in your own home.
the funny thing is I've been in that
Sign me
house.
up.
I've been in that house, and there is no feeling of oppression. It just feels like love. It's very interesting. It's a
Hmm.
100-year-old house, or 115, I think, something like that. It's beautiful,
Cool.
and like the tall roofs with the stained glass and everything, it's all still there, but it's been
Mm,
redone. And just there's
mm,
no feeling of oppression. There's no feeling of evil. There's no oppression or no feelings of there's no negative feelings. It's really, really bizarre because you would
mm,
expect. I mean, maybe you wouldn't expect, but like, like I used to work in a church. I was a maintenance guy in a church, and it was 100. It was also a 100-year-old church. Wow, there. Wow, geez, that was a long time. Anyways,
Serendipity.
in St. Albert and Alberta, for those who are checking maps. And I always got the feeling that something was there, something was watching, something heavy, but I never get that feeling in my buddy's house. So
I always like to think that like when a church gets decommissioned and all the holy things and stuff get like kind of removed from them, um, I like to think that there's still a chance that whatever evil does lurk out in the world doesn't seep into it very quickly. And if someone like your friend was able to get in there and kind of, put in a positive kind of
like maybe it's
environment
still
and space,
like
yeah, it
maybe
would
it's still hallowed
prevent
ground or
any.
something.
I think so. I think
Oh,
that the holiness
Mhm.
in a property, like on a church, remains even after the church and the congregation has moved on until there does come a point where it starts to weaken, I think. And then
so
you have stuff where evil can move in and you have these haunted church ideas.
my next question for my buddy is going to be: those old school churches were always hooked on to cemeteries. I wonder. I know, like, I know you guys know where I'm going with. Are there coffins in his backyard, or his front
Yeah,
yard, or his
yeah, you
side
may
yard?
want to find that out. I mean, given how positive you
Huh.
say the place is, it's probably not.
Or they were nice people that were buried. I truly have no idea. It's a very, very, very small like hamlet. So
If there was like I would assume someone would know if there were unmarked graves there. Someone in the
I,
last 100 years,
I'm
someone would
also
know that there was
curious as
something
to,
there.
and I mean, I grew up a Roman Catholic, but I don't know. I know that if somebody is kicked out of the church, it's called excommunication. But if they
Mm.
get rid of a church, is it called excommunicating a church? Is there a specific term for it? Or like you said, decommissioned, which makes sense. But
Mhm.
is the word decommissioned, or is there like some
That
specific
was just
word?
the easiest word that I knew to describe what it was.
Like unchurchify, dechurchify?
When it comes to the Catholic religion, I can't really speak to that, but I do know that that's for more Christianity, more Christian side of things.
Hmm.
The church that I go to, that I actually still go to and belong to, we had two congregations here in the city that I'm in, Sault Ste. Marie. That's where I live,
Oh, I didn't know
Ontario.
that. There you go.
So we had the two of them here that we decommissioned. That's the actual verbiage that was
Okay.
used. They were decommissioned, and we all moved into one old Catholic church. Actually, we moved into I think it was a St. Gregory parish, is what we had moved into. But yeah, like the word was actually decommissioned. So
Okay.
both of them were decommissioned. Yeah.
Um, so I know this is again not about our topic, but um, for the Anglican churches, the term is a closed church or a redundant church.
Oh,
But
I like those
yeah.
terms. They
Anyways,
sound kind of mean.
Interesting.
it's redundant. You don't need it. There's other churches.
You're redundant.
Right.
Yes. Okay, well, then fine then. Jolly good. Well, pumping back into
Sorry.
our origins, then we kind of did kind of cover the Gaelic and Celtic things. We did very briefly kind of mention that Mexico does have its Dias de los Muertos or Muertes. I don't know how to speak Spanish, so sorry. um, I did look into a few more little holidays. Unfortunately, I didn't have a ton of time to look up a ton, but I did find that in China, Singapore, and the Malaysian area, they have this festival called the Hungry Ghost Festival. It's mostly rooted in Taoism and Buddhism, so the monks do offerings, they do chants, they do songs. Um, this happens, it's said from my research, it's celebrated the seventh month of the Chinese New Year, which works out to be October-ish. And again, just like the Day of the Dead, the original Celtic tradition, it is a day to honor the dead, to honor the people who have passed. Offerings are made. You'll see little dishes with rice, incense in it. You'll see money in there for people, praying for good wealth. You'll see food in there, people asking for good health. There'll be, again, song and dance performed by both the monks and the people. Not entirely sure if there's a whole bunch of dressing up, but we know that it's going to be something that people will want to dress up for. Who doesn't want to dress up for a
Right.
festival? I mean, that could just be the white girl in me talking, but
So are
there's
they
always a chance to dress up.
are they waiting the whole year to celebrate? Is it like,
It
you know what I
seems
mean?
like, yeah,
Like
because
where the veil would be the thinnest, for example, on October 31st or whatever, would it be let's hold all our celebrations or all our hopes and prayers and wishes and stuff for that day because that's the closest we come to
so it's
them? Is
2 weeks.
oh, it's 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
I
Two
stand
weeks.
corrected.
So they say during the first 14 days of the month, the gates of hell are open. And so spirits and stuff can come back and forth. And that's how they are doing all of their offerings and stuff like that, is to appease them while they are kind of coming and going.
My
On the
brain is
14th
running.
day, the doors closed.
So you use the word hell. Obviously
That was
not
the
the
word they used.
right, but obviously not the Catholic hell where heaven and
Mm-hmm.
hell. So it's just like for them, whatever the word they would use for like the
Other
nether,
world.
well, yeah, the other world. I was gonna say Netherlands, but no, it's not them. Um,
The nether world.
the nether regions, also not true.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, but they use the word hell. But is that like do you know if their word like translate to that, or do they just literally mean their afterlife?
You know what? It didn't give me that
Fair
specific, I'm
enough.
going to assume it's their afterlife, because
Right.
like if they are offering to
Yeah.
it, it's not going to be something
Right.
necessarily evil.
Let's hope and give our praise and stuff for the people from
Yeah.
hell. But
It could just be the
Yeah.
general term for
right,
where people who have passed go
right.
on, because it doesn't sound like it's like when they describe it, it doesn't sound like it's like evil or
Nothing evil,
demonic
yeah.
things coming through. It's spirits
Speaking,
of people and ancestors.
you had mentioned Gates of Hell, and then you mentioned evil. Just recently, I think I wrote it down. I didn't write down the
Oh yes.
day, but just recently, so there's a stone in Japan, and I'm not gonna say
Mhm.
the name of the stone because I'm not
You don't do
Japanese.
that.
I can't speak Japanese. I could probably fumble my way through, but they call it the Killing Stone, and
Mm.
it was a big stone that was put on top of what they consider to be like the gates of hell. They've in their mythology or their history, whatever, if it's real or not, I don't know. There is a demon that was put underneath that stone, and it was said that anytime that stone would be broken, it would release the demon, and the demon would raise hell on Earth. And I'm gonna say maybe 3 weeks ago, maybe four, they found the stone cracked.
Oh, no, 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 no.
Oh, shit!
So that's something to look forward to as well.
So there's like a fun little audio that's going around on TikTok and Instagram right now, and it's like little kind of dun dun na 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 na. On a scale from 1 to 10, my friend, we're fucked.
On a scale from 1 to 10, my friend, you're fucked.
That's how I feel about that situation. I did look up the pronunciation of it. It's Seshoseki.
Sure.
Just in case anybody wanted to know. Yeah, it is a stone in the volcanic mountains of Nassau in Japan. There, it's actually by a sulfurous hot springs that a lot of people like to go and hang around at. But it doesn't look like they're allowed to go in it because of the toxic gases
Yeah.
that are constantly coming out of said stone.
See. So
Makes sense.
I
Indeed.
find it very, very, very interesting because with those toxic gases, there's theories about like the oracles of Delphi in Greek
Mhm.
mythology and stuff, or not mythology, Greek history, I should say, um, that they were high off of the fumes of sulfur and et cetera, et cetera, et
Mhm.
cetera. And I wonder there if it's the same kind of thing. And again,
Weren't they
my
also scrying?
what's that? Sorry.
So they were also high and scrying at the same
Right,
time.
right. So I mean, yeah,
And scrying is a very
that creeps me
it
out.
has been something that I have tried and
Mm,
attempted. It itself is a very dizzying and incapacitating process to go through. So like you really got to think if these girls were doing that, so they're feeling that weirdness already, and then on top of that they're high as a
right.
head kite. They who knows what it is that they said or how much truth there was to what they were saying, or maybe there was a lot of truth to what they were saying and they just couldn't put it into words. Who knows? All I know is a lot of people died because some of the things that these girls said, and it may
Um,
or may not have been for good reason.
I need to correct myself. I said that was like
Uh-oh.
3 or 4 weeks ago. It
Mhm.
actually was March 5th. Like all days are
Then
melding into one for me, but it was March 5th of this year. And then on the 26th of March, the local government had priests host the ceremony to appease the spirits that would have been released out of there. So yeah,
Okay.
it's just very, very coincidental that it would happen now, you know?
yeah, I mean, and
If
thank
it's not one
goodness
thing,
it
it's
didn't
another,
do
you
it
know?
2 years ago, because man, 2 years ago was rough enough as it was.
Well, the thing is,
Right.
why would you need to release the demon? Sorry, I said it. 2 years ago, when we already were all dealing with a whole bunch of garbage, anyways, you got to wait till it starts cooling down. You're like, I'm gonna give him something else. So,
Yeah, you know what?
It's
And
true.
that's what happened, right? Things started to come down, then came the murder hornets, then things came down, then came something else.
yeah,
Now we've
whatever
got this
happened to the murder
killing
hornets?
stone.
They just disappeared.
Hopefully, the same thing that'll happen with this killing stone. So
Well, I know that we're pretty much safe here because when it gets to minus 40 degrees Celsius, which is, I think, minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit, everything dies anyways. I die a little bit actually a lot on the inside.
we
So
die inside a lot in that
wasps,
weather, yeah.
bring it on, man. We'll take all your murder hornets, but only send them in wintertime.
Right.
We've got badminton rackets.
That's right. Electric tennis racket bug zapper things.
So we can use that to segue into the Japanese celebration that I found, which was called Obon.
I owe everybody an apology. I apologize.
No,
I'm
this
all
is
over the
perfect.
place.
It segued into it perfectly.
I meant to do it though, so just so you know, it was on purpose.
We planned this.
Good job.
So Obon is a Buddhist kind of celebration. It lasts for 3 days, beginning on the 15th day of the 7th month of the solar calendar. I don't know. I guess that kind of works out to about the same time, maybe a little bit beforehand here. And again, this is a celebration, again, very similar to the Hungry Ghost Festival, very similar to the Dias de la Muertes. Spirits are welcomed into the homes by their family members. Places are set for them. Offerings are made. Um, they encourage the spirits to come visit and then encourage them to go home on lanterns. So they'll have more lantern celebrations as well as fireworks celebrations. And the fireworks celebrations are actually meant to drive the spirits back to where they were residing before they came out for the celebration. So that kind of segues in nicely
Yeah.
with that. So it was probably some Buddhist monks who went and tried to perform some stuff on that rock.
I mean, it would make sense. I looked
Right.
up solar calendar first of all because I was just kind of curious if like our calendar correspond. Apparently, our calendar is a solar calendar. There's a list of 50 maybe different calendars that are solar calendars, and then the other version is a lunisolar. So I'm assuming that's with the moon, and then a non-solar calendar. So the Islamic calendar, which is a purely lunar calendar, has a year, and then the Mayans had a different one. It's pretty interesting. Sorry, I just thought I'd clarify because I wouldn't have taken solar calendar as being a regular calendar, you know. But-
Right.
And I believe our regular is called a Gregorian calendar.
I believe you're correct about
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Yes.
I've also heard it referred to as a Roman calendar.
We'll just say it was, I don't know, Roman Emperor Gregory. Now I need to know. Stand by. Continue. I will Google.
Well, Carl, do you have anything else you want to talk about Halloween or Halloween origins, even if it's just a story for us?
Well, I think Alex kind of mentioned the name Gregory, and I think that I kind of want to shift the focus a little bit now that it's put out there that I am a religious or spiritual person, and maybe talk a little bit about the church side of things when it comes to this holiday known as Halloween. So, like we've been talking about, Halloween was purely like a Gaelic pagan type of celebration, and I guess the Roman Catholic Church was not very happy with that, and decided that they wanted to infiltrate this celebration as well. So they had a celebration. I believe it was a March 13th is what the date was for All Saints Day. Well, back in, I believe it was the 7th or 8th century, Pope Gregory III actually moved All Saints Day to November 1st, officially making October 31st All Hallows Eve. Some say that it was actually the church's way of trying to claim the celebration for Christians.
Right.
Right?
Could it be, and I don't know if this is legit or not, but so October 31st, say is a thin point in the veil,
Right.
and things come out to play. Could it be the Catholic Church's, I guess, trying to put a lid on it? You know what I mean? Like, oh, the stuff came out yesterday. Let's get it back in the box. I don't know. I'm just.
You know what? It could very well be. Yeah, I mean, it could very well be that 100% that could be legitimate. Or it could have just been that they wanted to maybe share,
Okay,
not
fair enough.
maybe not necessarily infiltrate, but maybe
Right.
share the holiday
And
and the
like I said,
celebration.
I have no idea. Even being a Catholic, or I guess a former Catholic, lapsed Catholic. I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea.
Okay.
So I was just kind of curious if you knew anything more than I did.
Well, I do know that the actual All Saints Day is actually to commemorate the martyrdom of the
Right.
saints,
Right.
which had already, I mean, like I said, had already been celebrated for centuries
Right.
before with the entire church, just on a totally different day.
Yeah, for sure.
Now that this pagan practice, a Gaelic practice of Halloween has come in, almost seems kind of right to kind of
Right.
share that with them, right?
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Because I mean, effectively, these people for Halloween are remembering their dead family members and stuff. But for the church, I guess the family members are the saints. So you
Right.
know what I mean? Like, because as a Catholic priest, they can't marry. Bishops can't marry. The only ones that can marry are deacons, and they're not really priests. So
Right.
I guess their only family would be, like I know that nuns wear a ring and they are married to God.
To God. Yeah.
And then priests, the Pope, for example, has a very specific ring that's designed specifically for him. And once he passes away, they smash the ring and they bury him with it. But
Yes.
that's like his wedding ring to Catholicism, I guess. So that
Yeah.
makes sense, though. Yeah, yeah. But then why would they have like specific days for specific saints? That just it seems like
'Cause they're
excess.
special.
Excess. I need
Excess.
these
Yep.
answers. I gotta go deep dive somewhere.
There's always going to be those couple people who are just a little bit more special than everyone else.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I know that the Catholic Church took away a lot of sainthoods.
Right.
So, like for example, Saint Christopher, the patron saint of travelers, is no longer recognized with a feast day by the Catholic Church because there's no actual evidence that he carried Jesus across the river. If you know the story or whatever, there's no evidence. But really, there's there's not a lot of evidence for a lot of things. Like things. For yeah. Anyways,
I
but
was going to say that could just segue into a big argument
I know,
of like,
I
there's
know.
not a lot of evidence of a lot of things that people kind of say happened.
But speaking of Gregory and the calendar, there's another Pope, Gregory the Eighth, and he was the one who changed the Julian calendar into the Gregorian calendar, which is what we have nowadays, and that happened in, oddly enough, October 1582.
Okay.
Interesting. Interesting. Anyways,
All
I just
these
thought I'd share that. Gregorian.
groups doing all this, all these things. Yeah. Mhm. Back in the days when the Tudors were in power, huh?
It's very,
Right.
very interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Very
I
interesting time period for sure.
I have a bad problem with going off on like little routes and paths and stuff, so
It makes it interesting.
never go hiking with me because we'll end up somewhere we didn't belong, and I don't know, we'll get abducted by aliens or hillbillies or something.
You'll probably come across a door in the middle of the woods and you'll be the one
No,
wanting to open it.
with my luck, I'm coming across deliverance is what I'm coming across. But either way, just don't follow me down one of those paths. Just listen. Don't follow.
So that
Anyways.
being said, guys, I think that we have kind of given all of the information that we kind of have
Yeah, that's all I had.
on Halloween here. We kind of threw this one a bit together because I think we have a few more specific episodes that we just can talk about, just branching off of all of this information. Obviously, we're going to be talking about The Conjuring and Lorraine Warren, that series at some point. We're going to
Right.
be talking about cryptids. And let me tell you, there are some creepy things that come out of the Asian area in particular. I don't know what you guys like are doing down there, but you guys got some really spooky stuff that I can't wait to share with you guys.
I have a
Um,
buddy who's very well learned in Canadian cryptids, and so I'll bring
ooh,
forth some of those. So,
yes, yes, I
Please.
have
obviously,
been
I know a lot about
seeing
like everything else,
reports.
but it's the Canadian ones that I'm not really like that are very not well known. Like you have Ogopogo and like Bigfoot and stuff, right?
We
But
have one
like,
here in Alberta.
what's that? Sorry.
We have one here in Alberta.
Oh, yeah, what's that one?
That's the really really tall one, the one that's about they think he's about 7 8 feet tall,
Oh, you mean
and he's
Bigfoot? I
got a
thought you meant like
head
because
of a
there's a
deer.
wasn't that a movie? Oh my god, that was such a great
Mhm.
movie.
That
It was a
story that I
Jotun
heard actually came out 3 years ago from someone who was camping in the what's the dinosaur area not too far from us here?
Drumheller.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Drumheller. They were camping down there, and they had this thing actually walked across the river without submerging its head
So
to get to them.
interestingly enough, there's a movie called it's like a Finnish movie, whatever, Swedish movie, European,
Mhm.
whatever. Um, and it deals with like the Norse Jotuns, like the old
Oh yes, North
ancient
mythology.
ones,
Yes.
and literally there is a very tall one with like antlers and stuff, and that's immediately
Clearly
popped in my
same
head.
here.
What's that? Sorry.
So we've got cryptids to talk about.
Yeah.
We've got ghosties to talk about. We're going to also get into the Bermuda Triangle at some point. We're going to get into that creepy forest in Japan. We're going to get into that creepy forest in Romania. And
Aokigahara. I can't pronounce the
yeah,
one in Romania, but that's a pretty cool one too.
yes, that one has my attention. That
Mine
one will
too.
probably take a lot of time for me because I'm going to have a lot of fun talking about that one. You're not going to want to miss out on that.
Maybe a split episode, 2 episodes about forests. We can talk about grass or trees.
Leaves and flowers.
That's right.
Talk about the
Oh,
woodlands.
Meadows.
So that being said, Carl, what do you have going on this week and where can our viewers find you?
I have a lot going on this week. At the beginning of the week, could very possibly be doing a Raw watch along over on my Twitch as well as the our local establishment. Plus, I have my Tuesday show that I do, Turnbuckle Talk. I do that every Tuesday as well. Make sure that you're following all the different socials there. The easiest way for you to find all of my socials is by going to my link tree /Karl Carafel. That is where you'll be able to find all of the information for myself.
Awesome. And Alex, do you have anything going on this week and where can anyone find you if they want to follow you?
First, I want to say that movie was called The Ritual, which brings me to my next point. I never thought I would share, but I have a YouTube channel called Werewolf at the Movies where I ride motorcycles and review movies of all types. Normally not new ones, older ones. We're not talking black and white, but like anything I want. So
Perfect.
feel free. Werewolf at the Movies. That's this guy.
Awesome.
Officially unmasked. Officially.
Throw the werewolf mask away.
That's right.
And of course, you can find me on Twitter at Collins Melball and on Instagram at Melball Collins. You can also find me on Facebook at Melball Collins, as well as on YouTube at Andre and Melball's Wrestling Talk. And you could also find all three of us on ParaMindful on our ParaMindful YouTube channel, as well as Ole, our local establishment. They will also be showing our videos. I believe it's the week after that we have gone up, but we will confirm with that. Other than that, I think, unless the guys have anything else to say, we will see you next time.